So I plan to do a more elaborate video on this topic at a later time. I just always seem to have things to say when I'm driving. It's weird, but yeah, I don't know. It gives me time in my head, and I'm able to formulate ideas, and I seem to be able to articulate things a bit clearer when I'm driving. I don't know. Yeah. So I was pondering some stuff because yesterday was the 5th anniversary that I moved to Michigan in the pursuit of fatherhood, and yeah, I just during that anniversary time, I'm always pretty reflective and just think about all the stuff that's happened over the past years. And yeah, I think about who I used to be, how I used to be, especially when there's that Facebook memories thing that will show all of these things that you posted 5 years ago, 6-7 years ago, and a lot of the stuff that I've posted it's cringy. It makes me cringe. It just really shows how much I've changed. But yeah, I find a lot of objective truth in the quote that hard times create strong men create good times, and good times create weak men, and it's just cyclical. And I feel like at this point in time we're in the cycle of weak men create hard times, and I used to be one of those weak men. I would say, yeah, so the years of 2011 to 2011 to 2014, I was living in Portland, Oregon. I considered myself to be liberal and progressive, and virtue wasn't on the top of my list of priorities. I was into tattoos and bikes and music, and trying to listen to as many cool and obscure bands as I could. I was into women, drinking, having a good time, very much living in the moment and not really thinking about a career or a family. And so that was where I was at that point in time. It was also before I became a father. I became a father in the fall of 2014. But yeah, so reflecting on my time in Portland, it was just it makes me uncomfortable to think about being in that life now. I couldn't stand it. But back then, that was my comfort zone. Was living a promiscuous life, and not living a life of virtue, but just screwing up right and left, not knowing myself. I would say that a huge problem with men in general in this time is there's a feminization of men. There are a lot of effeminate men out there, and I was one of those men, and I'm not anymore. However, back then that was, it was the whole pink is the new black. I think I had a shirt that said that. Just, trying to alter the perception of men and what men are, and just what is a man. I feel like that is being challenged. I used to challenge it and try to be outside of the box. I don't anymore, for a number of reasons. But yeah, I just was living a very immature life. I was emotionally immature in my 20s and before I was a father. And now that I am a father and I'm in my 30s, I've got my head on a lot straighter. I am also a religious man as well. I was a loosey-goosey Protestant back then. I am currently now am a traditional Catholic. I go to a traditional parish and I attend Latin Mass. I take my son to Latin Mass. So I'm a lot different. I went to a Protestant hipster church back in Portland. But yeah, myself in Portland is way different than myself where I currently live now, which is Grand Rapids, Michigan. So becoming a father was a huge part of my growing up. It sucks that it didn't happen earlier, but I became a father at 29, and had to go through a lot to become a father. Did not have a good relationship with my son's mother, and did have to go through a lot of court. And I would say court did a lot of that. It was definitely the impetus for me growing up a lot as a person and as a man. Intellectually, there was a lot of growth, and it caused me to really reflect on what is truth, and to really yearn for it. And I discovered that I was a conservative through that process. So went from being very liberal to being very conservative, and then went from being conservative to being Catholic. So the Catholic faith and the Catholic teachings were very much in line with my conservative values and virtues, and that's a whole other video. But yeah, that's where I'm currently at, and I just I see I'm raising my son in this world that it's just there's a huge attack on men and masculinity. There is no such thing as toxic masculinity. The only thing that is toxic is effeminate men and a lack of true masculinity in this society. The society completely mocks it and attacks it and shuns it, and I think that's abhorrent. It's men are supposed to strive for virtue, and for courage, for honor, for strength, to be providers, to be successful. There's a lot of pressure in being a man, but that's what forms you, is that pressure and those challenges and hard times. Those hard times create strong men, and the culture now wants to completely bypass difficulty and hard times. We are living in a time, a prosperous time, and it's created a lot of weak men, and weak men are creating hard times again, and it's flipping over to being a more hard time. There is still some prosperity left, but even the system that allows for that is being under attack. And so you see a lot of people that are gravitating towards socialism, and attacking the free market, and this system that's been created, that's lifted so many people out of abject poverty. Now the time is, socialism is, it's cyclical. It's becoming more popular. You see, and a lot of upheaval nowadays. And people are, there's the dumbing down of society. People are dumber. School is to blame for a lot of that. There's a huge breakup of the family unit. so there's less fathers in the home, and there's a lot more brokenness in our society. And so having to be the man I am now, I'm grateful that I was brought to this point. I feel like God brought me to this point because he knew what was ahead. I feel like there are a lot of hard times ahead, and I hope to become stronger because of it. I hope to raise my son to be a strong young man, and then a strong man because of it. Nothing good in life was ever easy to acquire. Everything that's a challenge is something that's worthwhile, and it's always good to struggle. Struggle is very important. It builds character, and I can't even believe I used to be who I was. Just this, kid that wore tight jeans and listened to awful music, and just like to go out to the bar and hang out with friends. Not strive to have a family, build a career, be self-sustaining, self-reliant. I was weak. I was a weak kid, and becoming a father and going through hard times made me into a strong man. And I strive for virtue above all else. And sure, I fail and I suck. A lot of the time, I'm still a human being. And, the biggest battle I have is with myself. So, the things I want to do and I should do, I don't do, and vice versa. So, yeah, I would just encourage any men out there to really, first and foremost, seek after God, and then also seek virtue above all else, or God above all else, and then below that, virtue. And expect rough times, and it'll put some calluses on your hands. That's a good thing. Men need to be men again, and get their hands dirty and have sweat on their brow, and have an aching body. So men really need to start putting in work and looking for challenges instead of dodging them, trying to avoid those trials by fire. So yeah, that's all I got right now. But yeah, thanks for listening, and yeah, don't be a weenie.